It's a question about accepting a guru. So, for example, if I have fear of accepting a guru, I understand it's necessary. I really want to accept a guru, take shelter. But if there is some fear, how to overcome it? How to get closer to this, to make it happen? Basically, not to just think about it, but to really get to this stage when you accept a guru and you follow the instructions and receive the official.
And is there anything specific that you're fearful of?
I think
in that relationship?
That lose the freedom that somebody will be telling you
that,
take control of your life and basically start dominating and telling, do this, do that. You feel like in trap or something.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice question. I think the first thing is that, of course, we know there are many types of guru. So there's, the Vatma Pradarshaka Guru, the first person who guided you. Then throughout your spiritual life, you have Shiksha Gurus. And then eventually, a Diksha Guru is there. So I think first the principle is that you've already, Srila Prabhupada is there as a Guru. So it's not that a relationship with a Guru is unknown to you. You've already been doing that your whole life, otherwise you couldn't have come this far in Krishna consciousness if you had not accepted the guidance of Gurus. So I think the first thing is know that you've already been doing that to some extent. That you've already allowed devotees to come into your life and give you advice and steer you in certain directions. And of course, when you take Diksha initiation, there seems to be like another level of commitment there and another level of surrender, and that can be scary. The idea that there's some kind of absolute authority in your life. A few things I would say about the guru-disciple relationship is that the first thing is that there's dialogue in the guru-disciple relationship. My spiritual master always used to say that it's not that the guru just tells you do this and then you just follow. But there can be dialogue, there can be exchange. The Bhagavatam says that the guru is your authority, but he's also your best friend. So I think the guru is an authority, but the guru is also a friend. And the relationship is one of master and servant, but the relationship is ultimately a relationship of love. And then when I think you begin thinking of the spiritual master in friendship and love, then you're able to naturally have that kind of surrender without being intimidated by the fact that this person's gonna, you know what I mean? So it just becomes a lot more natural. So I think that natural wanting to give yourself to a guru will come in time when you meet someone who you feel that level of respect for and simultaneous intimacy. In Sanskrit there are two words, Gauravena and Vishrambhena. And that means that there are two qualities which mediate this relationship, respect and intimacy both. It's not just respect and it's not just intimacy, it's both things. And when both things are there, it doesn't become an intimidating relationship, but a very inspiring one. Yeah. I don't know if anyone else wants to say anything on that guru-disciple relationship.
Does having a mentor in your life help to get to this situation?
100%, yeah. Like a mentor is basically a modern way of saying a Shiksha Guru. So that's already a guru, already a person. So yeah, definitely that helps. We have to stop seeing people in our life as a limitation, but we have to see people in our life as an expansion. Kadambakanda Maharaj, he used to say the guru is that person who can give you a vision for your life which is much greater than you could have come up with yourself. So then that becomes very inspiring. It's not that a guru's coming in now and limiting me, but a guru's coming in now and unlocking me, unlocking potential. It's a different type of relationship. So when we approach it like that, that it's not that the guru is an authority, but the guru is he's coaching you into something bigger. Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Otherwise, yeah.
Maharaj, so everything is a perverted version of what's there in the Golok Vrindavan in this world, in the material world. Now Krishna has got all the good qualities. Where does the bad qualities of anger, lust come? Is it there in him and it's not manifested as such? And how does it really come to us if it is there, not there in Krishna himself?
No, everything that's here in the spiritual world has its pure form. Everything that's here in the material world has its pure form in the spiritual world. So yeah, Krishna becomes transcendentally angry. Krishna becomes transcendentally greedy. Even in the spiritual world, there's transcendental pride. One of the 4 types of separation that Srimati Radharani feels from Krishna is man. Man literally means, you can say, sulkiness or pride. Transcendental pride. So it's all there in its pure form, all emotions. But in the material world, we generally class these as negative qualities, and we class things like tolerance, kindness, compassion as divine qualities, because in the material sphere, generally these qualities lead to the degradation of the soul. You see, but in the spiritual world they have their pure form, and so it's not that there's no anger. Of course there definitely is anger in the spiritual world, but it's pure anger, it's transcendental anger, and it's anger which enhances love and brings more intimacy in relationship, like that. Is that? Yeah. So it's not just that anger and all of these things can be used in the material world in a positive way, but they actually exist originally in the spiritual world.
So why can't it be there in this world as the same qualities which are there over there? Why do they have to be negative in this world then? If they're only all positive in there, well, why does it have to be negative in the material world then?
Yeah, so you're saying like why, for example, are like tolerance and compassion, which are in both worlds, why are they good qualities here and good qualities there, but why are some bad qualities there? Yeah. Or so-called, why do they become bad qualities here? That's your question, huh? Yeah, like I was saying, because those qualities, there's something about them when they're not accompanied by, you see, for example, kindness, tolerance, all of those qualities, even if they're not backed by deep spiritual realization or deep spiritual motivation, they're still generally qualities which kind of lead to a sense of upliftment and elevation. Whereas the other qualities, when they're devoid of that deep spiritual vision behind it, they tend to be very degrading. Does that make sense? Yeah. So therefore they're more, they're classed in that way. That, like Krishna says in the 16th chapter, Dambo darpo bhimanascha krodha paryushamevacha, pride, arrogance, conceit, anger, these are considered the qualities of the demoniac. Whereas then he says, abhayam, sattvasam sudhir, fearlessness, control of the senses, compassion, tolerance, these are the qualities of the divine. Because generally these qualities, even if they're not backed by deep spiritual vision, they still lead to somewhat, they're still like mode of goodness, they still lead to an elevation. But the other ones, when they're devoid of that spiritual vision, then they become very degrading. That's why they're classed as demoniac qualities.
Why have we got the 4 defects? Why is Krishna is keen to have us come back, but these defects can stop us making mistakes and things like that, so we can stop our path going back to Godhead, to make it harder for us if we didn't have these defects.
So why did Krishna make us with 4 defects? Yeah. It would have been easier to go back to Godhead if you didn't have the 4 defects. Not necessarily. Sometimes in Krishna consciousness, your weakness can become your greatest strength. And oftentimes it also can work the other way around, that your strength or what you feel is your greatest strength can become a weakness. I'll give you an example. Indra had great capacity. He had great power, great control, great dominion. And the net result of all of that strength was that he became proud. But when one has a weakness, if the net result of that weakness is it engenders a sense of humility, then that humility is ultimately what will take you to Krishna. So you're going to go back to Krishna not because you have perfect ability, but because you have perfect humility. And therefore, the world is made in such a way to engender that humility within the conditioned soul. Because it's that humility which ultimately, in Sanskrit we say dainya means humility. Dainya and prema go hand in hand. Like without dainya there cannot be prema. So it's not that the 4 defects of the conditioned soul are a limitation to going back to Godhead. But actually they're that which engender a humility within us that allows us to approach Krishna with sincerity.
So it's a method to help us to get back to Godhead.
Yeah, we can say like that, the fact that we don't have perfect senses, that we, like the fact that we make mistakes is not a justification, but like there's this story of Kali and the Brahmana who was doing his Gayatri mantra. So basically this Brahmana was like a Paka Brahmana. He would do his Gayatri mantra like on the dot every single day. And then one day it was going just past the midday muhurta and he was about to miss his Gayatri. And then Kali came. And Kali said, "You're going to miss your Gayatri, you're going to miss your Gayatri, quickly do it." So he quickly, oh God, I got to do it. So he quickly just finished it within the Sandhyam. And then he came to Kali and he said, "You're supposed to be diverting me from Krishna. Why did you remind me about my Gayatri?" And then Kali said, "Because you're such a ritualistic Brahmana that you just do everything in such a paka way. But if you had actually missed your Gayatri, you would have become a little humble. And you would have repented and you would have become a little prayerful before Krishna that I'm so bad, I should improve. And maybe in that repentance you would have actually improved. So by locking you into your ritualistic so-called perfect practice, I've maintained your sense of pride that I'm doing everything really well. And in that way I'm keeping you away from actual spiritual perfection." So sometimes a mistake, the fact that we commit mistakes, if we respond to those in the right way, we can actually see that that's also part of a deeper plan to engender a greater movement of the heart towards surrender to Krishna.
So it's not because God's perfect, but what He's produced in us is perfect as well, in the sense everything's there for us to be able to go.
It's perfect. It's not that the human body is perfect. It's not that the material world is perfect, but it is perfect for its purpose. Right? So the material world is perfectly imperfect. It's imperfect because it's meant to it's designed in such a way that we realize I've got to get out of here. In that sense it's imperfect, but it's perfect in the sense that it's perfectly designed like that to fulfill its purpose.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Maharaj, thank you so much for this, Sangha. So this point that you made about sort of having that vision, trying to understand consciously what is the right thing to do, not to be mechanical, but at the same time trying to develop qualities that are enriching for our spiritual life. And it seems like this Kali had a better idea than the Brahmana in terms of if he made this mistake, he would develop humility. So he knew it, but the Brahmana didn't know it. Sorry. So how can we know when we're doing something by lowering our ideals, or whether we're being too mechanical and trying to reach these ideals mechanically, and not actually being conscious of the process, developing our consciousness and trying to be very conscious about understanding what things we need to improve on, like the qualities that we talked about, the qualities like humility, having tolerance, patience, all these things, how can we really know that we're making progress? Because you can be just stuck in tunnel vision, like I need to work on this quality today. I'm trying to be patient with everybody, or I'm going to try to be humble, and then you just miss, and you just can't miss the boat on some other qualities. How do you know? How do you really know, have that vision?
Yeah, I mean, there are many things which come to mind when you've spoken, or maybe I'll just speak on one thing which I think is really, really important, and I think maybe which is somewhat maybe lacking in our communities, is like a natural, friendly, warm and loving way in which devotees can receive feedback. I think, if I think about like maybe 20 years ago, I've not been in the movement that long, but whatever, 20, 25 years ago to now, I can even see the culture change in that time. That, you know, now as time goes by, we get into a space in our life, sometimes in our communities, where it's kind of a bit unapproachable. You can't really go to devotees, or we don't have those connections and that openness and that love and that relationship to say like, hey, you need to improve on this, you know. I find more and more that now devotees are either consciously or unconsciously living more in their own islands, and there's not that conscious relationship and exchange. And I think something great is lost in that, you know. When we have people in our life who we genuinely have connection with, who are giving us feedback, I think there's nothing more valuable you can have in your life, you know. And so I would say that's one of the most important things, you know. Previously in Vedic culture, someone would grow up in a gurukul, and it was with in a small group of people, and the guru would be with you from like day one, and you'd be getting trained directly. But now, because our movement has become so dispersed, and maybe gurus are not so involved in their disciples' lives in that way, and you know, so maybe that system of getting feedback is becoming more and more difficult. And I think that often is a major block to moving towards our ideals. So I think we're living in a time when you have to forcibly make those relationships and have those people in your life who you're regularly checking in with and asking. Otherwise, I think it could take a long time.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. And if anyone wants to share any thoughts on any of these points, then you feel free. It's not just questions. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the first question that's come through: how important is it to spend time with boys, even though one is married?
When you say boys, I guess you just mean other men sangha, other men, yeah. You have to check in this day and age, you know what? I don't want to be real. Yeah, other men. Yeah, every sangha has its, every type of sangha has its unique gifts, you know. When you're living, I mean, I can't comment, I'm not married, and maybe those who are married can comment. But naturally, it's a different relationship with your wife. You play a different role, and the positioning of that relationship is in a certain way. When you're with other men, friends, people you can be, I guess, open in a different way with, maybe some who are older and more senior, a little bit further on the journey, then naturally that is creating a different type of dynamic and input into your spiritual life. And so, we need all the relationships. Just like the Bhagavatam at the end of the 4th canto of the Bhagavatam is talking about how you should have relationships with juniors, peers and seniors. And it says that you can actually mitigate all distress by having those relationships on all levels. So we can just say, not just in terms of that kind of variety of relationship, but also variety of relationship with like spouse, friends, mentors, like. So yeah, we should try and create Vaishnav Sangha from all angles, because each type of Sangha gives you a special gift, no? And of course everyone has a different balance of Sangha as well, so some may gravitate more towards this or that, but generally all those ingredients should be there, and then that leads to a wholesome spiritual life. Yeah.
I just want to ask you a personal question. If this is a case where criticism has come your way, how has it affected you? And how have you dealt with that criticism?
Yeah, for me, I'm quite a sensitive person. So like any small thing anyone would say, it plays on my mind a lot. I guess the first thing I do when someone offers something like that, some negative or something, then what I would always do is just speak to someone about it. That's the very first thing I always do, just to process it, just to understand it better, just to get a different perspective on it, and that always helps immediately. Just the fact that you're able to just vent it out and speak about it, I remember every Sunday night, Shriti Dharma Prabhu would call me to his office. I remember it very clear, like after Gora Arti, and I was very much junior to him, like 20, 30 years. But we would sit on the couch and he would just tell me all the crazy things happening, all the accusations against him, all the negativity, and we just laugh, And I remember once I was walking out and he said, Sutapa, thanks for being my therapist, And I was like, but I don't say anything. I don't give you any advice. And he goes, yeah, therapists don't do anything. They just listen, And he said, and then he said something, and it was very serious. And he said, sometimes we just need someone we can speak to, I had of course, later on he got brain cancer, and it's not for me to make a judgment on that, but sometimes people do get so much negativity in their life, especially when they take leadership positions, that if you're not able to vent it out, it probably all just stays up there, and it can just eat away at you. So the first thing is you need to be able to have people to speak to vent it out. Not vent it, I don't know if vent is the right word, but to just share it with. And then of course, whenever someone criticizes you, you have to ask, is there some grain of truth in it? Then once the initial shock and the defensiveness has gone down, then you just need to ask yourself, is there some grain of truth here? And then even when you say okay, this doesn't seem as though there's anything here, then a Vaishnav thinks, yeah, maybe they're warning me what not to do in the future, and I'll take it like that. So it's nowadays we're doing a lot of, as you can see, social media. So you know what it's like when you put something on social media, anyone can say anything, and everyone does say everything. So there was some video recently, I don't know what I was saying, and then someone had put a comment yeah, easy for you, you don't have a job, you don't have any bills, you don't have any pressures, easy for you, you have a good life, you travel. So immediately my defensive self was yeah, why don't you join us then? And then my other logical so there's these different voices that come out when someone criticizes you. There's the defensive self. Then there's my logical self came out, that doesn't make any sense. If someone's actually has a life in which they don't have to work, they don't have to go through all of that, like why would you not be happy for them? That's a good thing, isn't it? So then I was processing it that way, and then my more reflective self came out, and I said, well, maybe they're right. Maybe the fact that I don't have a job, I don't have responsibilities, and I do have somewhat of an easy life in that sense, maybe I should be doing more. Maybe I should actually be extending myself more for all the space that I've been able to free up in my life and the responsibilities that I've been relieved from. And then I started thinking like, yeah, maybe that's Krishna telling me I need to, like, I cannot take it easy. And then it reminded me of something my spiritual master said, and he said to me that in your life you have to always give more than you get. So he says if you get more space in your life, then you have to give more service. If you get more respect, then you have to give more time and care and encouragement to others. If you get more position and opportunity, then you have to give more in terms of responsibility and anxiety for the movement. And so it reminded me that, yeah. So then and when I processed it like that, it was nice. I didn't feel defensive. I didn't feel like. So I think these are some of the things that help. It's never easy, You have a Kshatriya nature also. So naturally for you it's like there's more, it's not as even a spiritual thing, it's just by nature you defend, So that side of you will be very strong. Whereas I'm not saying, but maybe I have more of a teaching nature like that, so that defensive side is not as strong. It's there, of course, everyone has it. So you will have to learn how to deal with that, because that will come. That's just life, Everyone's always got something to say. Everyone always feels you're doing something wrong. And then at the end of the day, you just look at it and you say, yeah, it's all making me humble, It's all... Purijan Prabhu had this beautiful prayer when he saw, in Vrindavan you have these sugarcane machines, and the stick goes through, and he made this prayer. He said, may the hard crushing wheel of life extract some humility from my offense hardened heart, and may the nectar of that humility give rise to pure love for Krishna. So it's like that. It's a hard crushing wheel of life, Very harsh, this world sometimes. And the amazing thing is that sometimes devotees can be more harsh with you than even non-devotees. It's like, it can be ruthless out there, And you think like devotees can sometimes be so hard on each other. But you have to see that that's part of the hard crushing wheel of life, and it's extracting some humility from my offense, hardened heart. And that humility will give rise to some love for Krishna. So ultimately we try to process it like that. Yeah. It's not easy, criticism. Yeah. Anyone?
Go ahead. No, I didn't have a question.
Maharaj, this is a question about parenting. So one of the things, I'm parenting a particular set of children, so we're talking of teenagers, so 10 onwards, and till maybe till the uni. Maybe you could perhaps please share your own experiences in counseling so many others. My dilemma always lies in, on one hand, you should be their friend, but on the other hand, you feel that you got to be a bit more strict on them. And I find that at times I get the balance right, at times I don't. So any practical tips or advice on on the general principles of managing that particular age group. I think once you go to uni, then that's it. You can't influence them much. It seems to be that before 10, seems to be that they're still
moldable
and malleable. 10 to 17, especially Krishna conscious family children. I mean, on one hand, I feel really they go through so much in their 8 hours in school. So, just from your own personal experience of Maharaj, as to how to address the needs of this
personal experience is zero. I was growing up, I was a weird kid. I don't think I'm a good case study, but I mean, yes, as Chanakya says, it's a mix of 3 things: love, discipline, and friendship. So, yeah, later on in life, it becomes more the friendship, you know. Of course, you say sometimes you get the balance wrong. Ultimately, I think whether it's parenting or whether it's balancing any relationship, or it's like riding a bike, right? You never go in a straight line. You're always constantly making adjustments. And I think you'll see, like, you'll be acting in a certain way and you'll know at this phase, they just need a bit of space, you know? It's amazing how quick children change, actually, and how, I mean, you've probably seen more than me, but how many phases they go through. Like, it was interesting, I went to Krishna Avanti in East London, and I did like, I think it was year 7, and then, so I did their class, like 100 of them, and they were like amazing, like really good, humble, cooperated. And then I got to year 8, like just 1 year difference. And it's like they were cocky, they were, you know, like they're smart, you know, there's like, right, that period, right?
8 to 9.
8 to 9. It's like, it's amazing how much they change, yeah? And then probably in another year they'll probably change, and like teachers can probably say better than me. And then the kids go through their phases. So I think every kid is a unique project, if you want to call it, and you just have to be dynamic and on your feet. It was amazing for me because I joined the Manor in 2002, and at that time there were all these devotee kids. Like in that period, 2002, 2003, so many kids were born, like many devotee kids. And so now they're like 20, and I've seen them through like every stage of their life. And it's amazing, like they all went in different ways, without sounding like a Mayavadi, it's like, but they all paths lead to the same destination. Like they all came to that point of actually, practically every single one of them being serious devotees. But they all took different paths. And some of them just stayed very close to the devotees their whole life. Some of them went like here, there and everywhere and came back. Some went for a very short time and came back. So we don't know what goes in the hearts of each one of these souls who are on their journey, you know. But the main thing is that if they feel comfortable to always come back to you because you've given them that friendship, then ultimately Krishna consciousness is so beautiful that, you know, they will. I guess I don't know, maybe there are other parents here who can share more about how,
Yeah, I think also if you as a parent, your headspace is clear, then you naturally give more.
Yeah.
If you do face a situation whereby it's slightly different from yesterday and you've got that headspace, then you've actually got more time to speak to them and address it in a way where they understand.
Yeah.
But if you're coming from a 12-hour shift from work, you just want that to be relaxed. So it's also about you as a parent that you're kind of clear or
you're in the best space yourself. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah.
Well, my daughter's only 4.
Any advice?
For Neeraj and Tejvi, I mean, we used to take them to the temple right from young age. Of course, they were rebelling as well at that time when they come to the teenage age. But the good thing here is when they moved here to university and higher studies, under Sena movement and the association of peers, same age group, that really attracted them. And that's how they progress more in Krishna consciousness. So that's also keeping them in contact with their age group.
That's a very good point. Peers have such a profound influence.
Because they won't listen to us, but they will listen to their age group.
It's so true that after a certain age, parents' influence is very minimal. Peers have also. Thank you.
Ravi, you want to share anything? Yeah.
No, I don't have the questions are with
Oh, okay.
Okay, so how to deal with negative people trying to disturb our spiritual life? How do you do it?
How to deal with negative people who are trying to disturb our spiritual life. I think the first thing is have many positive relationships in your spiritual life. If you have good, loving, encouraging, empowering people in your life, it's like it doesn't matter how many, even one or two people like that, that gives you a certain immunity and a strength against negativity. But when you're in isolation and you don't have that kind of support and what I was talking about in terms of sharing things, then every negative voice becomes very, very loud. So I would say one thing is engender the positive relationships, because there'll always be negativity. We're living in a world which is full of envy, which is full of competition and all these things. So there may always be that element, and even sometimes within our own movement that can be there as well. We have to be realistic. So I think just have enough good positive relationships, and then naturally, if required, create some space, create some boundaries. That's another thing, like sometimes we don't create appropriate boundaries in our life, and we keep letting people into spaces in our life which then we have to work out later on how to repair that damage, when if we had just kept boundaries, then it wouldn't have come to that point. So I think that's really, really important as well, to create a space in which you can breathe and function like that. I think another really important thing is like communication, because sometimes I think we perceive a lot of negativity when actually that's not really in the heart of the person. And we tend to do a lot of judgment and come to conclusions. It's funny, like recently I met someone on the street. So he had gone to a Vipassana retreat. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Vipassana, but it's like a Buddhist retreat. So they go to, I think it's in Hereford, is it?
Yes.
In Hereford. Yeah, you're right. Have you gone? Have you been? Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting. So you 10 days and you take a Mauna Vrat, right? So you don't speak for 10 days. So I was asking him, what was that experience like? So he said, I don't know, you can maybe say whether this is also true. This is what he said to me. He said it was the most amazing experience of my life, because he said, I turned up to this place with like basically 50 people who I've never met before, but you can't also speak now to anyone. So now you're with these 50 people who you have no idea who they are, where they're from, like anything. You can't even speak to them. And he said it was so amazing because after 10 days of just being around all of these people, I had made a picture in my head of who each one of these people were. And he said the most amazing thing is after the retreat, when I actually spoke to each one of these people, I realized I was so off with each one of them. I had completely misjudged them. And he said it revealed to me how much judgment I do just by watching people. I don't know if you had that realization as well.
I have the realization even here as well.
Yeah.
Just talking to different people at dinner or something. And so one guy told me about that he'd tried keeping 2 cows. You know him as well, I think I forget his name now. But it was, and I'd heard about him through Ahimsa Farm and so I saw him as other people, but I couldn't have made that story behind that person.
Oh, behind, yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah.
So, and I've met so many people. I couldn't, I could have a view by just looking, not speaking, not listening. So I have that here as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we always we have this tend to project on others, and we see a lot of negativity. There's also this interesting YouTube video, and basically it's a person and they have this like camera on them. So they're walking through this scene, and basically, so you're seeing all these faces that they're seeing. So then you see a face, and then it kind of pauses, and then you look at this person's face and immediately you make a story of like who this person is, what they're like, and then what happens is a bubble comes up, and it just shows like what they've been through in the last day of their life or something. And then you're like, oh God, that's what happened. Okay, now I get it, why you look like that, So I think, we're not good at hearing the unheard, and we're not good at seeing the unseen. And we tend to just jump to conclusions based on and therefore I think a lot in my life I can see now, I perceived also a lot of negativity that wasn't actually there. It was actually just me creating it, a lot of it in my own mind. So it might also be worth checking yourself and seeing whether it is actually what you think it to be,
Well, we've got a few more minutes left. Fire on.
Yeah, sure.
What verse are you meditating on at the moment, Maharaj? And just maybe some context around it. Something very.
I'm not really. I guess I don't really meditate on one verse. But do you want me to share with you one of my favorite verses or something like that?
Yes.
God.
And maybe some context as well, like just why it's your favorite, as in what I mean.
Why it's an important verse to me. I was talking to someone about this verse the other day. Rupa Goswami in Padyavali or somewhere, he has this beautiful verse where he talks about, the verse goes like this: Yuvatinam yatha yunam cha yuvato yatha mano bhiramate tadvan mano me ramatam tvai. He says, just as the minds of young girls are naturally attracted towards young boys, and just as the minds of young boys are naturally attracted towards young girls, may my mind be as naturally attracted towards you without deviation. So I've been thinking about that a lot recently. I guess when I took this transition and I went through sannyas, more than the vows, more than all of that stuff, what really worried me was how I would be able to maintain an authenticity, a genuineness, a realness in how I live my spiritual life. I was scared that this life would make me catapult me into a different identity in which I'd have to live in a way that wasn't natural to me. So for me, I've always in my spiritual life tried to find a naturalness in relationship, a naturalness in devotion, a naturalness in connection to Krishna. And so I like that verse very much because for me it depicts the ultimate naturalness in which the mind is just naturally flowing towards Krishna, this without force, without any sense of. So being natural in my spiritual life is something I value and try to engender. So, something.
Thank you, Maharaj. Final question.
Do you use toothpaste on Ekadashis?
In one word, yes.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Can I just say? Can I just say? I know that you shared that you value the naturalness for yourself, but I would just like to say, as someone who's been around for a little bit, that it's a huge service to the devotees, because it's such a lacking thing, and I think because it's lacking, that has so many other byproduct effects which are not really good for the individuals or for the movement. So I think the more that spirit can spread and people can feel encouraged to live
Be
like
themselves,
themselves,
yeah.
there's almost, I would say, not many other things that I would say are more important. I feel.
Yeah, thank you.